Here is how to use the firewall module in Defguard. The firewall module allows you to control who has access to specific protected resources in your network. It operates similarly to a traditional firewall, but lets you create rules using Defguard entities such as locations, groups, and users. Under the hood, these rules are translated into NFTables rules, making this functionality both reliable and efficient. For the purposes of this video, I have created a Docker Compose configuration. It includes standard Defguard components like core, edge, and gateway. What's different in this setup is an additional Docker network, the protected network, with a different address range. The gateway is connected to this network and acts as an access point to it. Within the same network, I also have two protected applications. Each has a static IP address assigned to it. The applications are very basic and just output a simple text: protected application 1 and protected application 2. What's important is that these applications are not exposed and can be accessed only after connecting to the VPN. Now let's see what I have configured in Defguard itself. I also have 3 regular users, so non-admin users. Each one of them has a device already set up. And each device also has a static IP assigned, so we'll be able to recognize the users. I have a location created with a gateway already assigned to it, and this location has the firewall module disabled at the moment, which means that every user that connects to this location will have access to the protected network and also to the protected applications. So let's check it right now. Here's my desktop client. Now I will connect to the VPN as a user with an IP that ends with 3. In our case, that is Alice. And we'll see if Alice has access to the protected applications. Okay, Alice is connected. You'll be able to see that in the users list. As you can see, there's a green dot next to Alice's avatar, which means she is currently connected. So let's now see if Alice can reach the protected applications. First, let's try the first application. IP ends with 20. And then the second application with an IP ending with 30. And as you can see, Alice was able to reach both applications. And this happened only because she was able to connect to the VPN. Now let's try to realize a business scenario that is the following. I want Alice to have access to protected application 1. I want Bob to have access to protected application 2. And I want John to have access to both applications. Now let's try to realize a business scenario that is the following. I want Alice to have access to protected application 1. I want Bob to have access to protected application 2. And I want John to have access to both applications. To achieve that, we'll use the firewall module. First, we need to enable the firewall module for our location. So I'll need to go to the location section, edit the location, and at the bottom, you'll see a firewall section where I have multiple options on enabling the firewall. I can have the firewall disabled, or I can apply a default policy for my location, which is allow access to all resources by default, or deny access to all resources by default. Let's pick the last option. Now what I need to do is to create a set of rules that realize my business scenario. So I'll go to the firewall section, to the rules tab, and here I can create a new rule. The first rule will be allowing Alice access to protected application 1. So let's name it. Next, I should define a destination. The destination specifies the resource that the rule applies to. So in my case, that is protected application 1. So what I should do is to specify the IP address of protected application 1. And that is 10.10.20.20. Next, in the permissions section, I want to give Alice access to this resource. and I don't want any other groups to have access. I don't want any network devices to have access. Let's create a rule. Okay, the rule landed in the pending section. Right now I can deploy the rule to the actual firewall. Okay, it's deployed. Now let's give Bob access to protected application 2. For that we need to create a rule, but this time let's use another functionality of the firewall module, which is destinations. So in the previous rule, I created the destination manually, meaning inline in the rule. But since we are creating rules that affect the same resources, it's reasonable to create destinations and reuse them in the rules. So let's now create a destination for protected application 2 and use it in the rule. So the destination name is protected application 2. And I know the IP of this application, so I'll just use it here, 10, 20, and 30. That's the IP address of protected application 2. And I also know that the port for the UI of this application is 5678. And I'll just add this destination. It's here. And right now let's go back to the rules screen and create a rule that will grant Bob access to protected application 2. Okay, I gave the rule a name, and now I can pick a destination from the ones I have created before. So I'll just click on this button to select the predefined destination, and as you can see, I can pick the protected application 2 from the destinations list. And it appeared here, giving me the details of this destination. And same as in the previous rule, I want to restrict a user, this time Bob, and disable access for all groups and all network devices. The rule is pending. Let's deploy it. Okay, now let's create the final rule, which is allowing John to have access to both applications. Maybe I'll create another destination for protected application 1. And while creating a rule for John, I will reuse both destinations. So let's pick both. And let's pick John to have access to these apps and disable others. And let's deploy the rule. Okay, now we have a set of 3 rules. First one granting Alice access to protected application 1 using a manual destination. Then Bob has access to protected application 2 and uses a predefined destination, and John has access to both applications, and I use destinations also here. Now let's check if the rules actually work. So first, let's check if Alice has access to protected application 1, and if she hasn't got access to protected application 2. Let's connect as Alice. Yes, Alice is connected. And right now, let's check if I can access protected application 1. Yes, Alice was able to access protected application 1. And let's check protected application 2. And no, Alice was not able to access protected application 2. Now I switched my desktop application to Bob. As you can see, the static IP changed to 4, which is Bob's IP address. Let's connect as Bob. And yes, Bob is connected. And let's see if Bob has access to protected application 1, which should fail. And it failed. Let's check protected application 2, and this should succeed. Yes, Bob has access to protected application 2. And now I switched my desktop application to John's configuration. He has an IP ending with 2, and let's check if John has access to both applications. Let's connect first. Yes, John is connected. And let's check first application 1. John has access to protected application 1, and application 2 also has access to protected application 2. So our rules work. Now I can briefly explain other parts of the firewall module, other functionalities. In the main menu of this module, you can see the aliases section. So aliases are reusable parts of destinations that you can use while defining them in the rules. So this is convenient if you have, for example, a reusable port that you use across all the destinations. In our case, both applications use port 5678 for displaying the UI of the application. So it's reasonable to create an alias for that. So I can create the alias here, and the port is 5678. I can add it as an alias, and then while creating a rule and while creating a destination manually, I can pick from the aliases list here. So I can pick protected UI port. I can disable all ports, and as you can see, the port from the alias was already specified here. What is also interesting in the rule form that we didn't talk about is the restriction section. So we only applied permissions, giving a specific user access to a resource, but we could, for example, grant access for a resource to a whole group. Let's say I want to specify a group that has access. In my case, I have a group called Defguard. So let's say I want to have all the users from group Defguard access to this resource, except one specific user. So I can limit access for this user. For example, I want Bob to be the exception. I mentioned that rules created in Defguard get translated into NF tables rules on a gateway. So let's now try to inspect the rules that were created to see how they relate to the ones created in Defguard. To inspect the rules, I need to execute an NFT command on a gateway. In my case, I have only one gateway set up as a Docker container, so I can execute the command within the container. The command is nft list rule set. The table we are interested in is the one called Defguard. So Defguard creates all the rules within this table. And as you can see, there are a bunch of rules created within this table. Every rule that we create has a comment so that you can easily identify which rule in Defguard caused this rule in NF tables to get created. And as you can see, we have a rule for Alice that allows her to access protected application 1. We have two rules for Bob, allowing him to access protected application 2. We have two rules because each one of them is for a specific protocol. For Alice, we didn't specify the port, that's why there's only one rule. And for John, we did specify the port, and John has 4 rules, 2 allowing him to access protected application 1, and 2 allowing him to access protected application 2 on TCP and UDP. There are also a bunch of deny rules that deny access to protected application to anyone outside of our user group. And that is how you use the firewall module in Defguard to manage access to resources in your network.